3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
We're going to start with what we normally start with, but obviously it's going to take twice as long. What's your small piece of advice that you would give others to just be that little bit better every day?
Who's going first?
You go first. Age before beauty.
Wonderful. I did think about this, and everyone starts off on your show saying, I've thought really hard about this, and I wasn't going to say I've thought hard about this, but I've already said it. Be honest. It's actually mine. Be honest with yourself every day. And when I say that, be honest with where you're at. I know personally I've had a month, 6 weeks of things being very heavy, and being honest with my friends and my work colleagues and my family to say that things are a bit tougher right now, that helps because you're not hiding shit away. Beat that. That was deep.
Yeah, it really was. It really was.
Go on.
I don't have nowhere near as much depth as that. Mine's actually a really old, because I always go to old shit. It's an old thing called the Serenity Prayer. Now, I have a faith, but that's not part of it. But there's a thing that got adopted by Alcoholics Anonymous. I haven't been in the program, but I understand it because I've had a friend who did it, which is give me the courage to change the things that I can, the serenity to accept the things that I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. So it's about, sometimes we get so dragged down by the detail of things, and sometimes it's like, can I change it? No? Well then, fuck, don't worry about it. And knowing the difference, that's the hardest part. So for me, that's kind of something that I find myself going, is this really worth worrying about?
You sound so smart right now.
I know. It's the glasses.
You never sound that smart on our podcast.
Oh, hang on, this is Troy.
Go right into it. Give us a plug. Tell us where you're from.
Tell the story.
All right, so we started off, I don't know, 1989.
Not the podcast.
Not the podcast, but we've been mates since we were 15 years old. We both grew up on South Road. There's a little corner store on the corner of South Road and Ironcliff Road where we grew up, and there's a video game machine there. So for those people who don't remember, video games, you put money in and you played the games, and we became friends. We became mates, and we just really enjoyed each other's company.
And we're really competitive.
Oh, very competitive.
So I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember this because you guys are fairly youthful.
Yeah.
I was born in 89.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm going to ask about the South Road thing. I thought they were on the Ulverston side, so I'm a little bit
Oh,
worried.
Yeah, I know.
No.
Them's is fighting words.
You will step back, son.
Ease up, Turbo. South Road starts in Penguin and then makes its way to Ulverston.
No.
And up to 38 South Road, we are the most famous people on South Road, Penguin.
Look, there is one other person on South Road that, you know, he's done a podcast.
Have you heard about Russell Robinson?
I don't know if you've...
Played for Melbourne, you know, only was one of their
He's
best
the
and
third
fairest.
most famous South Road boy.
Yeah.
You know, but that's not his fault. He tried.
Is it?
All he did was kick a ball.
He's at
That's all he
39,
did.
doesn't count. Anyway, so we started off that way.
Yeah, so the competitiveness that I was getting to. So we'd line the 20-cent pieces up on the screen and we'd play this game. And we'd always, when the machine was beat, they'd give us a new machine. It was great, good setup. So Joe's going crazy, and I could see him getting close to my score. It's going up, and the numbers are ticking over. And I'm standing behind him, and Joe back then had like an afro red hair, clowny
If
thing.
you could imagine Ronald McDonald and Pauline Hanson had some sort of love trial. It wasn't quite Soul Train, but it was, you know.
Yeah. So imagine that. I'm behind him. He's about to beat my score. And all I'm trying to think of is how can I stop this happening? And the only thing I could come up with was I had a lighter in my pocket because we both smoked then. And I've lit the back of his hair.
It goes up.
I
It really
didn't
goes.
realise, I've never lit, have you ever lit someone's hair before?
Try
it
not to.
goes up. So there I am smacking the back of his head, trying to put it out. He keeps playing through all of this, beats my score. And all we've got is this smell of burnt hair that took up the shop floor. We got banned for a couple of weeks, didn't we? Yeah. It was just, but he says now, it shows how strong our friendship is, that I tried to kill him and we are still friends.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where it sort of happened. And then it must have been 5-6 years ago. You came over to Melbourne And we went and saw Kevin Smith, who's a podcaster, and we saw his live show, Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. And part of that is anyone can podcast. So he does Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. He does Edumacation, +1 per diem. Like, he's done so many podcasts. And I said to Barnesy, I said, look, do you want to? Do you want to do a podcast?
And my initial reaction, I think, was
no.
what the
It's a podcast.
podcast? What? We don't know podcasts.
And I went, it's fine. I'll organise everything. You just have to show up. And so we did a lot of research, and as you guys would have done when you did yours, everything says never do a podcast via Skype. Don't start it that way. So that's what we did. And it was me sending equipment to him and creating these little voice boxes with cardboard and foam and all that kind of stuff. And we just did it. And I suppose initially it was just about us being purposeful in spending time with each other. Because unfortunately, I suppose, we've known each other since we were 15. There would be 6-12 months where we may not even speak.
Yeah, typical blokes.
Because we didn't have time. We didn't have a reason. So if you don't have a reason, like, women will often pick up the phone and go, hi, how are you, to their girlfriends, and just have a chat. Boys don't generally do that, just shoot the shit. And so if you give it a framework of here's an excuse, you kind of tend to do it and it doesn't seem gay. No. We're good. Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with your gayness, but
Thank you. Yeah.
but it's that was the reason. And since then it has probably been the best thing I've ever done for our friendship, or we've ever done for our friendship.
No doubt.
Because every Monday night we purposefully set time aside to spend time with each other, do what we can to entertain each other. We spend time beforehand going, what's going on in your world? Are you okay? Sort of all that kind of stuff. And really being able to check in with life. And then we try and create an hour's worth of laughs. And then we'll just hang out. We'll watch TV show.
Which is more for each
whatever.
other
Yeah.
than anyone else. Strangely enough, people listen to it.
Yeah.
It's weird, I know. I don't understand it. But it's more for us. We just get together and, the other thing that we researched at the start when they were talking about getting a podcast together was find your market. Stay in your lane, and people will come to you. If you want to talk about cross knitting, talk about that. It'd be amazing. People will come to you. And we just went, we just want to talk about shit. Yeah. So we did. Yeah. So we go in it with no plan. And it's more about us catching up, trying to make each other laugh.
Yeah.
Having mateship. It's great. And the fact that other people listen to that and think that's pretty funny, that's even better.
To go back to, I guess, your 1%ers and probably just to bring it back just a little bit, and we'll get back to your podcast undoubtedly, but how do you implement, let's start with there, how do you implement your 1%ers in your life day to day?
Well, for me, as I said, it's about being honest. So I've had a bit of a tough run. If I go back, I had some really shocking depression years, which hit me pretty hard. And I didn't realise how hard it was. A lot of my friends saw that, my family saw that, or my family found out about it after I was open about it. But now it's become very apparent to me it's so important to just put myself out there and say, you know what, mate, I'm actually not having a good week. And then Joe will then further the conversation, cool, what's happening, man? What's going on in your life? And I'll break that down a bit. And I might get a bit teary and all the rest, and we'll have a hug and I'm okay, cool, let's have some fun now. And I've done the same thing at work. I've got a great boss, Chloe, at work. She's fantastic. I had a shocking day here a couple of weeks ago in which she took me aside and said, look, are you okay at the moment? I just started getting all teary. I'm a stupidly emotional guy. It's crazy. But she said, there's no use you being here like that. Just if you need to go, just go. Go and play golf.
So we did.
Yeah, I did. But the fact that we are living in a world now where you can be open that you're not okay, and your employment can turn around and say, you know what, you're more important, go and do this. Because when you've done that, you can come back and you can be at 100%. The fact that you're not scared to have those conversations, I think means we've actually come a long way. Whereas once upon a time, you wouldn't mention that at work because you were seen as maybe, okay, if I'm like this, they'll think you're not up to the job, they'll get someone else. So there's been a real shift, I think, in that. And also with friendship, I would have kept things to myself. Like last time when I went through some bad times, I didn't share a lot. And it was a mistake. So now to say, be honest with yourself. Actually, be honest with how you're feeling on that day, and then be honest with the people around you. For me, that works better. It's not necessarily a solution. It doesn't fix the problem, but it opens the problem up to conversation, and that then becomes, I suppose, a channel to solution.
Because sometimes a burden doesn't need to be carried by yourself. And if you tell someone, or whatever, and I don't know whether or not it doesn't make it any better, but it kind of feels like it's a burden shared. And I think that kind of helps. Yeah.
I think the saying is a burden shared is a burden halved.
There you go.
Yeah.
See? Learned people. Smart.
And the good thing is if you cut a bird in half, you can both share it evenly.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Nothing better than half
Is that what you meant?
Kind of.
Cut a bird in half and
Yeah.
I think
Half
that's
a
what he
chook.
said.
Half a chook.
Half a chook. Yeah. Bachelor's handbag.
Get chips with it.
Yeah. Chips and gravy.
And yours, Joe?
You sounded smart too, so you've got to back this up now before.
Yeah, I think probably it comes down to relationships as well. Like like I'm married, I've been married now for 28 years coming up. I know.
I think you should have mentioned that before we started. Their opinion of you now
Yes.
has changed.
I'm so old,
I don't know if I should say sorry, but
Yeah, sit down, fellas, and I'll tell you some stories.
that's not where I thought that voice was going.
No, and so I've got a wife and I've got 2 kids, and sometimes they don't do everything that I want. Okay,
Really?
yeah, it's bizarre.
And you're still there.
I'm still, but because the question is can I change it, or should I change it? You know, and
You can swap kids. Did you know that?
You can't actually.
There was an app for
There's
it.
no
Really early on, though.
There's a no.
When they're not recognisable.
Our warranty ran out on ours, so like we've got them for life. You can't just go back and say I'll swap them out for the good ones. So it's about. It really is going, can I accept this? Can I accept the way that the world is going at the moment, or what do I want? And if I want it, can I change it? And if I can't change it, then you just got to accept it. And sometimes I find the hardest part for me is knowing, can I change this? Can I change the way this person's behaving or acting? Or is it my behaviour that is affecting that? You know, I suppose the other thing that I do is if I want something from someone, what am I doing for them? What am I doing to be able to put them in a position to go, oh yeah, I won't be a dick to Joe. You know, that I'll be kind. Or if I want my kids to speak kindly to me, how am I speaking to them?
I'll still be addicted, Joe.
Oh,
Always.
That's what you
might
offer.
as well face it. Totally addicted to Joe. Yeah, it's probably a little bit harder, but sometimes it's just breathing. It's just taking a moment. The work that I do sometimes can get really busy really quickly. And so it's about, what's the plan? How can I change it? Can't change it, right? Let's accept it. Let's move on and keep on trucking. Yeah.
So they're sort of quite different. But yours, Troy, did you think with an F, not with TH? Did
You go
think-
really well on our podcast.
Did you think that come from like your struggles? Was that, be honest, does that come from your struggles? And do you think that if you had have had that earlier than your struggles, they would have been like way better managed? You know, would you have liked that tool earlier?
I would have loved that tool earlier. Yeah, I was a shocker. But in saying that, I didn't also, we're going back to, 2008, 2009, I suppose, in that area. And the knowledge around guys being open and depression as something you talk about wasn't really that big back then. It's shifted a lot really quickly. I was writing horror novels back then. That was my jam.
Published author, by the way. Published author.
Self-published. I'm not going to stroke myself too heavily, but it was fun. And I didn't want to go and see a doctor because I was afraid they were going to give me something to dull me down a little bit, which would then dull my creativity, which means I wouldn't write, and that was the thing that I loved. The catch with that is, though, I went through 4 or 5 years of this, didn't get any help. Over that period, didn't write a fucking thing because my brain was so fragmented and all over the place that I didn't gain anything from it. But if I'd had that tool, that knowledge to be able to say, I'm actually not doing well, then that may have changed a lot of things. So, yeah, it would have been handy. Yeah, but you live and you learn. One of the things that opened my mind up a lot to being open was I put a blog post on my author website at the time. I just decided one night after, I think, half a bottle of red, I just said, let's make decisions. Oh, yeah.
Full bottle of red. Let's be honest. It was a full bottle of red.
By the time I finished, it was a full bottle. Started in decision making at a half bottle. But at that time, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to document what I've been feeling and what I've been going through for this period of time. And then I did that, and I looked down and I thought I should go through and just kind of make it sound a bit better. And I went, you know what, no, needs to be raw. And then I shared that post on Facebook and just put it out into the world. And it was one of the best things I ever did, because from that, suddenly out of nowhere, I got all these people messaging me saying, I'm going through these things. I wish I could have said that. I wish I could have been open about that. I wish I could be so brave to, and I hate using the word brave because it wasn't brave, but that's one that's commonly used, but so brave to be open and say that, because there were people coming up to me in the street that I'd known from years ago that I see as happy, because we're good at being happy when we're not, saying that they've had multiple suicide attempts and they've got children and they've got, a husband or a wife and whatever else. And they would never have opened up to me and spoke to me about that if I hadn't have been, or the first person to take that step. And then from that, there's a lovely lady in Burnie by the name of Debbie who runs a suicide awareness walk out of the shadows into the light. And she then asked if I would actually come and speak to that audience. And I thought, wow, this wasn't the intention of what this was. And hopefully you get back to where you need to be. But the fact that I was able to get up and then be hugged by random people and have other people say, wow, coming in hearing you say that has really helped me was pretty phenomenal. And it disappoints me too that I've got back to a point where I'm feeling very low again. So I was hoping that wouldn't happen, but I've learned from that. I know more, and now I've brought people into my circle, and I know I'll be okay. So... What was
comedy podcast, by the way.
And the joke is...
Troy, man, super deep, and thank you for sharing. But yeah, and Joe, great. I guess, dare I say, segue of a friendship there, like knowing sort of when
I don't like him.
Troy needs just to maybe like
the 10 times I wanted to say something and interject. Yeah. It's really hard because I just love this man desperately. I really do. And I just genuinely enjoy spending time with him. And, the moment, the time that he called I went over there one day and he said I needed to call another friend because I was looking at an extension cord in the garage thinking, well, this is it. And you were too far away because you were 40 minutes away. You know, that just rocked me to the core. And, you know, thankfully our other friend, Grant, picked up the phone and...
Actually, Grant Howe, who you've had on the podcast.
Yeah, Grant, sorry.
So Grant.
Grant.
Depends on the mainland, he is Grant. In Tasmania, he's Grant.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And depends also how many bottles of red.
Shiraz. He loves his Shiraz.
Yes. Sorry, Grant. Grant.
But to know that, it just rocked me to the core. And more and more we find ourselves talking about just the inertia of things, the small details, because it sometimes is a death of 1,000 cuts, like a problem, and you spin your wheels. And he's an intellectual man, even though he seems as dumb as batshit. But he does. He really overthinks things a lot sometimes.
Yeah.
And
It's a curse.
And I'm as happy as a fool because I just don't put too much thought into a lot of things. And I'm probably more optimistic, and Troy sometimes can see the dark shadow in the corner that's going to come out with something that's going to kill you.
It's a horror background.
It's a horror background. But that's, I suppose, we're the yin and yang of each other sometimes.
Yeah, you're a very good mirror for things to, I suppose, bring them back to earth. Yeah, you've always been that, so I'm very grateful for that friendship.
And I think
But
it's
yeah,
really,
comedy podcast. So just
Comedy podcast. Hilarious.
I think it's really good that you can share it too, though, because and although every story is unique, there are a lot of similarities across the world that I think we need to hear from and to share. And obviously that resonated with a lot of people when you put it out there to the world, and a lot of other people sort of could share sort of some of those similarities with you in themselves. And hopefully they took that step that you perhaps did as well, where they had someone beside them to walk alongside them to sort of help be their bouncing board, or help sort of be their mirror to reflect on what they're sort of going through and how how they can sort of get themselves out of that sort of dark spot. But yeah, thanks for sharing. And Joe, thanks for sort of pulling us back to that happy space.
Yeah, I suppose sometimes we all feel that what we're going through is not much, but it's really big in our world. And just because it's not what you perceive other people would think is massive, doesn't mean it's not world-ending for you, you know, and it can't stop you functioning like a normal human being, having relationships at work or in your family or whatever. So sometimes I think we focus on, oh, well, you know, I'm not quite at that point, so I'm not too bad. Well, you can be really in a tough spot, and it might be just something minor. Like it just could be you've got no coffee, and that's just world-breaking. And sometimes it's not, you know.
coffee. That's a...
I love coffee. It doesn't have,
you brought back to coffee.
Does not drink hot beverages. Is that weird?
Oh, I know people that don't drink hot
Don't
beverages.
drink shame me, for fuck's sake.
Drink shame or kink shame?
Well, no, you can't kink shame me. That line goes down the chain.
You're going to have to get pretty freaky to be able to shame me.
Speaking of freaky, can I bring up a quick podcast story? So, when we started doing it live together in person, after 60-odd episodes, you know where I'm going, don't you?
I do. I just thought that sounded a lot dirtier than what you meant it.
What? You haven't heard the story yet. So, I decided to do something a little bit random for Joe. So, it was my birthday that week. So, he's come in and set up. And the way we set up is we have a trestle table, a couple of holes in it. And we set all the gear up.
For the
and
microphones.
To get to like the toilet and the bathroom, I walk past Joe and then I walk back behind him. So he'll be like where you guys are. I'll walk past him. I'll come back this way. And we started it off and had this whole thing set up. And he mentioned my birthday about 10 minutes into the episode. I said, oh, shit, mate. That's right. I forgot. I was going to grab something for this episode. Keep talking. I'll be back in a sec.
So
Joe
I can
keeps
talk. Just talk.
babbling away. And I've got no idea what he's saying. I've gone off. I've gone up to my bedroom. I've taken all my clothes off. And we're not the kind of mate, we weren't footy mates or anything. We weren't doing change rooms together. You know, we don't sit around and watch porn together. I know a lot of guys do that. We don't do that.
Do they really?
These guys do.
That's what they were doing when we got here.
And anyway, so I've just done that, and I've grabbed like a cowboy hat, and I've just sat it basically over the junk. And I've just walked back in like Joe's, just talking away, casually, just going and going. And as I'm walking past, all he's seen is my bare ass. And I've just sat down and then sat the hat on the table. So you can't see anything on the angle. Explain your laugh to people.
So if you can imagine Taylor Swift just came to Australia, yeah? Know all those teenage girls screaming? Pretty much like that. I'm like a teenage girl's being hurt. Like it's just really high and just repetitive.
It's ridiculous.
And I can't change it.
And he can't stop either. So he's just gone on this laugh loop. And I actually did think for the first time I may have caused the death of my friend. I thought he was going to have a heart attack. And it was one of the funniest things. And then we recorded the rest of the entire episode with me naked.
And it's so awkward when you know that your friend has got no clothes on and just below the ledge of that table is stuff you don't want to see. The thing that I find that helps me the most, and it's all about not getting what you want, because I think at the moment, like in 2024, we are often, what's in it for me? How can I get what I want? I need my needs to be satisfied. And especially when it comes to when it comes down to family or friends or whatever, if you're not getting something from them, what are you giving them? Like, what are you actually doing for them? If you want your spouse to be XYZ towards you, what are you doing to make them feel valued and loved and all that kind of stuff? Because if you're not putting in, how can you expect someone else to put in for you? And I find that then changes my mindset. And that's the more important thing, where I'm not thinking about always me. I'm not getting what I want. I'm thinking about somebody else. I'm thinking about my kids, or I'm thinking about my wife, or I'm thinking about Troy. You know, what can I be doing that changes my focus? And if you change your focus, then all of a sudden you don't seem to be missing as much, and you seem to be giving. And I think if you give more than what you expect to receive back, you kind of get a bit more back than what you need.
You're trying to take it away from that transactional sort of...
Yeah.
Thanks, Aaron. Take the relationships away from the transactional, like, I'll give you this, you give me that. It's just like, just here, have this, take this, and whatever.
Absolutely. Without hope or agenda, you need to do something for somebody else, so that you are just doing it because you want to, because you are, how can I make you feel better? And if you do it without hope and agenda, then you kind of feel better about yourself. Like, you know, you're absolutely right. It's not a transaction. If I spend time doing this for you, then you have to do something for me. And it's like we do for mates. Like if you have a mate who says, "Oh, I've got some work that I need to get done.
I've got a body I need to move.
I've got another body I need to move." And it's like, well, right, I've got the body disposing kit now. Yeah. It's in the car ready to go.
Another set of hands.
I just need another set of hands.
It wasn't from Wish, was it? Because it would be too small.
I've just looked over in the room and there's a ball pump over here. I hope it's a ball pump. Anyway, the kids need one, so I'm going to pump the ball up. I'm going to take that from you. I'm going to give you nothing for it, and I'm going to ask nothing from my kids for it.
There you go.
So, look at that.
And you feel better already. Well, everyone's a winner.
You are such a friend.
It's coming up. Ball pumps.
It's a new movement.
It just is. You're like Oprah. You get a ball pump. You get a ball pump. You get a ball pump.
For me, something that I know, and it's a helpful step, but something I know if I'm feeling as though things are a bit out of control or whatever else, and I just need to step back and just preempt what my next steps are, a lot of the time what I'll actually do is take a moment to show a bit of gratitude for other people in my circles. Like it might be simple as a text message saying, just want you to know that, mate, I really appreciate you in my life, or whatever else.
Never got one of those texts.
They're lost in the post.
He was out of credit that day.
Yeah. New phone, who dat?
I don't know in a world of unlimited calls whether you can still do that. It's out of credit. But I was out of credit that day.
It's not like the early 2000s where you had to get prepaid.
But the other thing and that's a great thing too, because I do that without needing a response. It's not about wanting someone to come back and say, oh, I love you too, man, or anything. It's about, I just want to take a moment to show gratitude for you and, what you do, whether it's friendship, whether it's the fact that you're just in my circle, whether I think you've done something amazing that I think it's great that that was really important. But the other thing that I actually really love too is a show I've started watching. I'm not into medical shows, but I started watching New Amsterdam. They're all shaking their heads. It's like, wow,
He's been banging on about this for weeks.
Like, fuck.
For weeks. It's pretty much down.
Thank you. Yeah. But one of the big questions that I love about this show, and he starts it off in the first episode, and what his mantra essentially is his question all the time is, how can I help? And it's not because it's asked because he needs anything back. It's just, what can I do to make your life easier? And I think sometimes for me personally, if I'm not feeling 100%, if things are heavy, being able to show or be helpful for someone else takes me out of that space a little bit. Tapping as though you're about to say something really weird. It takes me out of that space, though, and it allows you to refocus and shift somewhere else. Because a lot of the time for me, I do overthink. There's too much stuff going on. I'll go through an entire script in my head of what I think people are going to say if I say something to them. So just having, I suppose, something where I can just do something for others, not you, but others. It means it takes me out of that vicious circle and just kind of pushes me away from that and shows me that I can actually be someone else for that period of time. And hopefully that's enough then to snap you out of it and then go, cool, I've stopped thinking about that now, that thing that didn't actually matter that much. And now I'm concentrating on this and that's now gone. So it doesn't always work.
No.
But eventually I might even send Joe a message saying, I really appreciate you and you're a great friend. But you know what? I see you every week though. So I don't need to do that.
Still doesn't say it. 330 episodes every Monday night.
He still doesn't send you a text message.
You might get lucky next one.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Tell us more about your podcast.
Oh, so the podcast is just fun. We really do it because we just enjoy our time. But a lot of people want to know what our podcast is about. And I know I spoke to you guys about this before we started recording a little bit. And I always try and explain it to the point of view that we cover anything and everything. It just depends on the mood. It might be something funny happening in the news that week. It might be just a conversation we get into and it ends up somewhere we never expected, such as we do love occasionally, probably because it's my fault, but talk about sex robots and how amazing they would be in
100%
life
Troy.
right now.
100% Troy.
Seriously, I mean, everyone thinks about how awesome a sex robot could be. And everyone wants to try one to find out. Everyone does. Don't deny it. I already know.
Have you seen Judgment Day? Have you seen Terminator?
Not one called Arnold.
When they rise up, that's what's going to happen. We're going to have the singularity, and then your sex robots are going to come up, and it's like, I'll come again. Like, it's just,
So
and they will kill us all.
We had one episode where if the world was ending and we had to get everything together in a bunker, what would we take? And it was one of the funniest things we've actually ever done, I think. But it came out, we're like, root vegetables, blah, blah. We need this and we need that. And I've gone, sex robots. I said, because they'd just be great because you have a companion. And Joe just turned around and said, to be honest, I prefer to take my wife. And I thought, I didn't actually think of that. Because you just assume if shit's going down and everything's going crazy and the zombie apocalypse has kicked in, the women have already tripped over.
But the thing is,
And I'm not going back for them.
these are three strapping young lads. They will probably survive a zombie apocalypse. You and I will be clutching our pearls somewhere going, no, don't eat me.
So, I mean, there's that. I wanted to take pandas because I think
They are delicious.
I think pandas actually, we may discover, are the best meat on the planet. Yeah, but because there's not many of them, we don't eat them. Well, someone's tried.
Just a little nibble.
But that's the other thing I get onto all the time, pandas.
Yeah.
I mean, I said before, don't bring up pandas, now I've done it, but, oh, fuck, they're a dumb animal. Like, it's serious. They're dying. Like, they're not procreating. So if a panda's in a cage by itself, I mean, it's a shame. It's not really a cage. It's an enclosure. Let's make it sound better. Yeah, it's an enclosure. And they're rolling around with a couple of balls and whatever else. And they're by themselves for
you
ages.
could use the word sanctuary to make it sound like, respectful.
Sanctuary, nice. But in all honesty, if I'm in there by myself for all that time, if someone puts a pineapple in that enclosure, I'm probably going to try and fuck it. So if you're going to put another panda in there, and look, pandas are cute. I mean, they are. They won't have sex with each other. They just don't. So they're not growing pandas. Like, just do it. It's not that hard. Maybe that's a problem. Maybe it's not that hard. I don't know.
And I think that's the problem with our podcast. It goes on a big tangent. If you're asking me what our podcast is about, it's the conversations you have with your mates when you've been 15 years old.
Oh, that's unprofessional.
No, I turned it to silence.
Obviously not.
Unbelievable.
There you unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Amateur hour.
It's the conversations you have when you're 15 years old with your mates, and we just grew up, but our brains didn't. Like, that's all it is. It's just about trying to make each other laugh. You hang shit on each other. You talk about the films you like, the TVs you like, stories you see in the news that you go, how batshit's crazy that. I'm loving
Flat
it at the
earthers.
moment. Flat earthers. I'm loving
Gift
it.
that keeps on giving.
Like, I'm a curator of oddities. And so for a whole year, we went through my 1990 school diary.
Wasn't that fun?
I found my 1990 school diary, and then every week I read a week out of what happened in my school diary. I don't know why that's
This is an ongoing joke, the phone.
This is an ongoing... Oh, I know why. Because my kids are FaceTiming other people. There you go. Done.
I was about to say we could have just got him on the show. Like,
No, because Troy went away, and so I did a podcast with my kids for an episode, and that was weird.
Yeah.
Them
Wasn't
talking about pandas, it was bizarre. No, so that's all it is. It's about us having fun. It's about us being purposeful with each other and spending time with each other, and it's just what can we do to make each other laugh.
And then we went next level and decided to do live shows, and that was different.
Yeah, people said we should do a live show, and so it started off with 4 people on Troy's lounge.
That was to celebrate our 100th
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Live in the Lounge.
Live in the
Yeah,
lounge.
gave them lanyards. It was great.
Backstage passes.
when's the next one?
We haven't decided yet.
No, we haven't.
I travel for work, so it'll probably be post-June.
I reckon mid-year, but normally Ping on Beerco has been a great one for us for the live shows with Scotty there.
Yeah.
So it's a good venue.
350,
But,
I
it's a bit
reckon, is
fun.
probably the
Once
one we're
again,
looking
it's all unscripted. So we always say with a live show, you may end up getting the funniest couple hours of your life, or it may be the worst experience you've ever had.
But
other
you'll have
than
a
having
story.
sex with me.
But that'll be disappointing. But you'll have a story. At the end of it, you'll walk out and go, that was a shit show, or that was awesome. Either way, you're telling someone.
I think that's the best spot to stop. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Again, thank you both for being on, and I'm assuming the podcast can be found on all sort of podcasting platforms.
Find it everywhere.
Where you get all your bad podcasts.
And hopefully, one time soon, there'll be some video podcasts for people to watch
That's
down the track.
plan.
Yeah, it is.
He's grown
So
his hair out.
When we do, I want to get a panda on live.
I will be in there to try and watch because
South Road Boys
I think
Panda
we should
Cast.
do that live. That would be great. Look, there has been some sort of triggering comments and things throughout this episode. So if there's been anything that has triggered anyone online, please, we encourage everyone to reach out to a mate, a family member, anyone that they can to have a chat. And all things considered, if you can't talk to any of those kind of people, there is people like Lifeline on 13, 11, 14 who are always willing to help, or talk to a local GP. Other than that, if you've liked this episode, please like and subscribe to our podcast.
Yeah, hit the button. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
And our YouTube channel and all the rest of it. But follow these guys as well. They've got some super funny content, I have no doubt. But thank you very much, gentlemen. Cheers.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Please to Panda Viagra.
Yeah.